today we're going to delve into the set decorating department a little bit and try to understand one of the key roles in that department.
Where does that fall in the prop? So in the big art umbrella, where does set dec fall within that umbrella?
I guess art sits at the top and falls over everybody like an umbrella. And then under that umbrella are the two key departments, which are props and set dec. Set decoration obviously does a lot of what it sounds like it does, which is sources and provides or has tailor-made, custom-made all of the set dressing that might dress this space, for example, or a period castle or a spaceship. Or
they're responsible for everything that you see here.
Yeah, all of the elements. Yeah, basically.
And our guest today is an expert in this field, Mr. Jack Short. Welcome.
Jack Short is a production buyer. That's how I know you, as a production buyer on some big films like The Mercy and Hunter Killer, and then Landscapers also.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So how long have you been in the industry, Jack? Take us from the beginning, like where were you born and what was your education like? Was it film based or?
I didn't have a film education.
Okay.
I had a kind of music and art education and studied fine art at university. And whilst I was doing that, I started composing for short films that people at my university were working on. So I got friends with some of the directors on the film course and was doing composition and kind of sound art pieces.
Is this voluntary stuff then, or?
I guess so. Portfolio building at that point.
Okay, portfolio building. Okay.
Yeah. But cool stuff because, you know, we were just making whatever we wanted at that point.
Yeah.
And that kind of went on even as I got into the art department, into set dec props. But I kind of fell into the prop set dec world through, by chance, really. Actually, through knowing a prop man.
Okay.
Who gave me an opportunity.
How did you meet him or her?
He was the boyfriend of a friend of mine. He needed someone to come and help dress a set for a film called Criminal.
Okay.
And I came in and dressed I knew what the art department was, and I knew about the departments of film a little bit. And I'd always kind of loved the idea of production design, but didn't really know kind of what the pages of the book really looked like. So I was thrown into this world. It was right after university, and I just tugged on this little thread because he gave me this chance to do it. And we were dressing rubble into a like blown out sort of church building, plus a lot of designer furniture and things. And it just it blew my mind in the.
So you were right in at the deep end at this point.
I'd gone on to like a big.
Okay.
At the time, would have been a Band 3 production. It was something like a 60 or 80 million pound film.
So the bands are split into 4, aren't they? Is there 5 bands?
Oh, good question.
4 bands.
I think it's 4, but there's Band 4. I don't think there's a band.
So Band 1 being productions that are less than a certain threshold point of about a mil, is it? The Band 1, then Band 2. So Band 4 would be like a Marvel, wouldn't it?
The big stuff.
Yeah. So you were in at Band 3. So
because I don't think Band 4 existed at that time.
So at the time you were straight in at the big stuff.
Yeah, I think Criminal was something like 80 million because I think the cast that they had in that was Kevin Costner, Tommy Lee Jones,
Gary Oldman,
Gal Gadot. Is it Gabo?
Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot. She was a relative newcomer who played the wife. Ryan Reynolds. He was in that too, and the guy who played the bad guy. Yeah, he was a huge star from Europe. So their cast bill alone for that movie would have been huge, massive.
Yeah.
And that was your first job. Actually, the rubble.
First proper job. I'd done, odds and sods.
The composing stuff.
And doing sound recording. It was everything before this point had been audio related in film.
Right. And were you already in London at that point, or did you literally get on a train and come down for that job?
No, I was in London. Okay. So I'd done art school in London.
Oh, okay.
And
right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I then you know, was sort of pottering around as you do when you come out of art school, being like, how am I actually going to make any money working in the creative sectors?
Yeah.
And this opportunity came up. So yeah, like I said, I just kind of went with it, and did a couple of days on that. And then I contacted the prop master and asked him if he had any more work. And he had me at Pinewood, I think a couple of weeks after that.
Was that a face-to-face, or did you email and say, look, I've just done a couple of days and...
It was face to face, and it was a little bit more ad hoc back then. I think that Daly's work does exist maybe in an ad hoc fashion, but not in the way that it did then. It just felt very, yeah, can you come in again? Do you want, it was, yeah, it felt very, yeah, odd and new, but it was cool as well. So I was then, you know, I had no kit really. I had just like a rusty hammer and like, you know, a backpack, something like that. So I was like taking the train every day for 2 weeks. I ended up doing then, after doing dailies on the same production at Pinewood. So commuting some crazy distance from Southeast London to Pinewood on the train, and I did it, yeah. And it was great. And then I met a bunch of other people in the prop team on that job.
Right.
And importantly, then I met the set decorator, who then went on, which is what kind of led me into doing set deck work. So that was kind of my only props dressing window until more recently. I've done a little bit here and there, but I then found I met the set decorator on that job, and we had a bit of a rapport. And at the end of one of the days, I'd got another friend in to do Daly's work with us, and because they were just like, they needed bodies to come in because there was just so much stuff to do. And then he picks a call sheet off the floor, like covered in like trampled dirt and a footprint, and I was like, what are you doing? He was like, I'm just going to keep it and like email loads of people after.
So the call sheet being what's given out daily to crew, which lists everything from the call time of what you're meant to be on set to who's directing,
and the sides are on,
and the sides as well, which is obviously the breakdown of the script for that day for those scenes. But it's essentially like a little mini Bible for, and most importantly for the day, and most importantly, it's got numbers and names on there of people from different departments, isn't it? So if you need to contact anyone, you've got your call sheet. So that was taken, was it?
I nabbed one.
Okay.
Sat on it a bit. Went back to my like ordinary life and didn't really do anything in film for something like 5 months.
So what were you doing then? You say ordinary life. What were you doing?
Well, I was still living in London. I was doing art projects, still trying to get composition work.
Okay.
But living like a sort of poor artist at that point. And then I decided I'm just going to message the set decorator from that job and ask him if
from
he's
the
got
call
any work
sheet.
from the call sheet.
Okay.
Messaged him, and 2 weeks later, he called me. He didn't respond to the text message, and he called me and said, "Oh, are you free at the moment?" And I had a job. I was working at a supermarket, like full time. And he said, "Do you want to come and be the assistant buyer on my next job? I can offer you X money, this car allowance and kit allowance." And it was, an astronomical amount of money compared to what I was earning. And it was just this opportunity out of the blue to go and do this. Golden door was just like in front of me to go and do this job.
And you just dropped what you were doing in the supermarket.
I literally handed in my notice that day, but I'm
not putting these tomatoes out.
It felt fake, and I just was like, oh God, I've sort of screwed up my life and just said yes to this thing. Or just over like one call.
The film had been opened.
It felt too good to be true, but it wasn't. And then I went on to do this film called The Mercy.
The Mercy.
Yeah.
You worked on that as well?
Yes, The Mercy's the story of Donald Crowhurst.
Great name.
Who was a guy who tried to circumnavigate the globe in a boat that he'd built himself. It's a true story.
Yeah.
And it all goes well for a little bit of time and then starts going badly.
Right.
James Marsh was the director, I think.
He did The Theory of Everything.
And the lead actor was
Colin Firth.
Colin Firth, that's right.
Rachel Weisz.
Rachel Weisz was his wife. And we shot it all over the place, really. We built a boat in West London Film Studios. We built a catamaran.
Yeah.
We built 4 catamarans for that job.
Yeah.
We shot some of the sea stuff in Malta.
Yeah, and some down in Dorset as well.
Yeah. And then we
We've
and
got
it's all
real
set.
boats and fake boats.
Yeah, and it's all set. It was all set in the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, 60s. So it's all period dressing. There's a boat exhibition. There's their house where they live. There's the boatyard, the workshop. I mean, it's quite a thing. John Henson was the production designer.
Yeah.
So he's the same production designer as
He did Criminal.
he did Criminal, he did The Mercy, and he
I
did
worked with him a lot.
and he did Hunter Killer.
Yeah.
And he did Overlord. Yeah. Before he kind of stopped designing for film and moved over to the commercial sector a little bit. So
So tell us about that first job then that you did after that. After the daily work, you then got the phone call and
Got the phone call, and then
and you didn't know what I assume you didn't know what assistant buyer was.
not really.
Not
and
really.
at that point, nowadays, this is going to make me sound like I'm a lot older than I am, but with AI,
You are a lot
of
older.
tools. Yeah, I know. You can kind of Google anything and it'll come up. Then I was like, what the hell does assistant buyer's role entail? And on that phone call where I accepted the job, I knew what kind of I was doing. I knew what set decoration was, but I didn't really know what the role was and what it would require of me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't ask. So I was,
yeah, to act like I did, like
yeah.
I've done loads of that, yeah.
So yeah, I was again thrown in the deep end, but I just think all these things, all these opportunities where you are thrown in the deep end.
So what does that role involve then? Tell us about that role.
It is you're prop buying and researching and kind of facilitating a hire buyer and the set decorator or the assistant set decorator's requirements, really, based on designs and references, which kind of starts higher up at a design level. The set decorator and the production designer will agree on an aesthetic that they want to achieve. So, like we said, a castle might be a 16th century French castle, and then
So that's the vision, the castle,
Yeah.
and then it filters down to, well, for this we're going to need.
Can you find this
Yeah,
stuff?
can you
This
find
stuff
this
is-
candelabra or something? And then it's down to you that comes further down to then go and source and research and say, well, I've got 3 options here.
you would start by researching what's available in the style that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Then you find if it exists. And
Is that contacting hire houses first to see if they've
there's,
got it?
There's
or-
prop hire houses which exist,
Mhm.
and then often you're buying a lot of the time. It depends on the scale of the job, how individual you want a set to look, how important it is. Sometimes you might only be doing a tiny little set that's going to be in the edit of the movie for like 10 seconds. Therefore, you wouldn't throw a ton of money at it. I think it generally depends.
So maybe
on
you
the
wouldn't
budget.
instantly go to a hire house to rent a ludicrously expensive item. You might go a bit more rogue and thrifty. Is that how that would work?
Yeah, or it really does depend on what it is and how important it is. I think it generally comes in at an importance level of like, is this a hero character's table that he's going to sit at for an hour of the movie? Then you might make it if you can't, but you probably
The
wouldn't
Mercy
hire it.
specifically, I mean, with its sort of nautical themes, I remember a lot of that stuff that went in the boat. You wouldn't be able to find that stuff.
No.
It just simply would not exist. So there would be a lot of model making and designing, and then that falls under your supervision as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In
So
the set deck department.
exactly. So if you can't buy it and you can't hire it, then you go to a kind of another design level where you would either draft it, or you might sometimes have a draft person working in the department who would draw up individual items, for example, on a dashboard of a boat. And then you would get a model. You would then deal with a model maker who is gonna make that idea come true.
So you have to communicate with those departments as well as the hire houses. and
Constant
form
communication and logistics, basically.
Constant communication. Yeah. So you have to know what the hire houses have, so you can very quickly say, well, they won't have it. They won't have it.
Yeah.
They won't have it. Whereas I know a guy that can make it.
Yeah.
And he's in my phone book.
Which at the beginning is difficult. So as a petty cash buyer or an assistant buyer, you don't really have that kind of catalogue or archive in your mind
Right.
of I'll go to Lee for this thing, or I'll go to Ben for this thing.
Yeah.
You kind of have to build that up over time.
Yeah.
So you'll give it as an assistant buyer, you should be given the lesser responsibility jobs. I think on nowadays there's a lot of that kind of gets pushed down because teams are smaller.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would be given less important things to do. And then as you progress through the ranks, you're kind of dealing with more hero items.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what is it you're doing now currently? What project are you working on at the moment?
I have been working for the last few years kind of exclusively in commercials.
Okay.
Where I'm not really doing production buying, although it kind of all gets mixed in to the same bag. I think when you're doing a commercial, you're expected to be able to dress a set, source a prop, design a flat, paint. You kind of have to be able to do everything. So if you're an art director, which is kind of what my role has been for the last few years, you may just be doing one thing, drawing a set and delegating tasks to other people, but you're expected to be able to do a bit of everything.
Organically then going into commercials, or because it's quite different to film and TV, isn't it? It's a lot more pressure, a lot shorter schedule.
Yeah, was that a life choice to shift into something was less long running, I suppose?
I think, yeah, for me it was.
Yeah.
I love filmmaking. I think the product often, when I say filmmaking, I mean film and TV. I think that that films are a pure artistry,
Yeah.
whereas I think that a commercial it's a sort of meat grinder.
Yeah.
But you're also doing very interesting things a lot of the time.
Yeah, you're producing an image, aren't you?
Yeah.
Brand image.
Yeah.
Rather than a story, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the long format of a film, I think, can tire you out.
It is quite grueling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas a typical long format project could take anything from 3 months to a year,
For sure.
sometimes longer.
Yeah.
Whereas commercials typically, I mean, what's the longest commercial period that you've worked on?
The biggest one I've ever done was last year. I did the Marks and Spencer's Christmas commercial,
Okay.
which I was on for 2 months,
Wow.
which is big,
So when do they shoot that? Because I would imagine those supermarkets and those companies pre-plan and shoot way early in the year for the release of the Christmas commercial, right?
Exactly. So all the Christmas ads, not all of them, but they're generally shot around summertime,
Right.
which is funny.
Difficult when you're
Very-
trying to shoot winter
Yeah.
/ UK.
So we were doing it, and there was a heat wave when we were doing it last year.
Right.
And
Obviously.
yeah, the one heat wave.
Yeah, the one we
Yeah.
had. So what did you have to do for that particular role? Can you talk about?
I was assistant art directing for a production designer, but I was essentially art directing, which was some. The role is very different on a commercial,
Right.
but you kind of fill into sort of being what a prop master would be, in some ways. You have to crew the team, manage the team on set, delegate jobs, but you also have to do set drawings, deal with buyers and make sure they're all organized, and essentially facilitate I guess you're more of like a cross between a prop master, a supervising art director, and a set decorator. But
Multifaceted.
yeah, there's just a lot less people, a lot more pressure.
Do you get off on that then? Do you enjoy that kind of multifaceted, high pressure commercial work compared to a film where it's more singular in your role?
It definitely is a buzz, I would say, doing a commercial, because you get to do a bit of everything.
A super high tempo.
Yeah. But when you come down off of it, it's a different feeling. Whereas on a film, the joy is the kind of slow burn of the ideas, I think.
Yeah.
You really feel like your fingerprints are all over what you've done.
Yeah.
And I think film people are more specialist at what they do and very, very skilled at what they do specifically. Whereas on a commercial, even though people are skilled, you don't really get to utilize them, because the machine of it is often I just said a 2-month job was one that I did last year, but they're often a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
The ideas turn over very quickly, and it's just about facilitating that as quickly as possible, rather than
There's some real niche jobs in. I mean, when I started out in the art department, I kind of spent probably 3 or 4 years doing just commercials. We did a lot for Nintendo, and then did a lot for Waitrose. And there's some real artistry in the food stuff where you would never kind of get that so much in the movies. The way to make beer look good on camera, the way to make chocolate melt slower, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That kind of hyper niche elements to selling your product
Yeah.
as the best, where the beer you're actually looking at on screen is not the beer you're selling.
Yeah.
It's somebody else's beer.
Hybrid. Yeah.
And there's a guy there who's been making beer for commercials for 40 years.
Yeah.
And he's found a way to make it look perfect on camera.
With an everlasting head.
Yeah.
That doesn't diminish over
Basically, yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's his job. He just
Yeah.
goes from beer commercial to beer commercial, making perfect looking beer for camera. He looked a little bit like Hulk Hogan.
Oh, this is a real person.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but I spent a commercial with him. He turned up and said, "I'm the beer guy," and I was like, "Okay, cool. What do you need from me?" He said, "I just need set me up a table. I just need a couple of buckets." And then he got a bunch of stuff out of the boot of his car
Started
and
mixing.
just started making this stuff.
The
and I
beer.
sat watching him do it, and he was adding all sorts of business into there. Had a few machines that I'd never seen, like whisks and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And just did all of these various jugs of things. And then whenever the director called for something, he'd go, "Oh yeah, jug 4." And then he'd pop that in for the pour beer or the static beer. Then he would, him and the standby to work on spritting the glass, freezing the glass, having the glass come out as the dry ice, all of that kind of stuff, so that you can literally taste that beer when you see it on the screen. Like, oh my God. And you're like straight down the shops because you really fancy a pint of whatever or a bottle of whatever. So yeah. It's the same with the food as well. I mean, it was John Henson again, actually. He spent a few years doing Waitrose commercials at 3 Mills Studios in East London. And they were with Delia Smith and then Heston Blumenthal and then a home economist whose a job role is specifically to deal with food on set, whether that be on film or commercials, who come with basically every kitchen implement or utensil you could ever possibly imagine, and would know every single trick in the book for how to make the steam come off a pancake a certain way in slow motion, or how to make an egg break better out of its shell.
I think making a pizza slice come out of the pizza, the cheese straying down, that's an art in itself.
But I mean, that's
it's things people don't think about. Right? Yeah, in every ad, just what you said. If you're watching a bread, I just did a Warburton's advert at the end of last year, and we had a home economist come in. They actually went with an AI version of the shot, which is a whole totally different story, which we shouldn't really get into. We had a home ec. We shot a fast rising loaf. For the shot, and it people who are specialists in making weird things like that on camera happen.
And then there's
so
there's their packaging, and you always get something called the pack shot at the end of a commercial, which is when you see the product,
the hero shot.
Yeah, in its packaging, how you'll see it in the supermarket, and then probably if it's like a ready meal for one, you'll see it in the dish next to the packaging, and you spend hours making the packet look the best it possibly can.
Way better than it will ever look.
Yeah. And then you make the meal look way better than it'll ever look.
Yeah. It's probably not what you just said is sometimes they don't even use the product.
You're not even using the product.
No, you use someone else's product, or you use, if it was a chicken fillet, you'll use an organic chicken fillet bought from, a luxury butcher somewhere.
So you say about 3 years you've been doing the role that you're doing now?
No, I've been doing this for a long time in between film. Right. I think I've been doing what I'm doing now probably since 8 years, but I think I haven't really done a film or a TV series in set deck for about 5 years.
So tell us a bit more about the finite details of your role and who you are forming relationships with, who you're reporting to, how your decisions are influencing what you're making.
I guess, in terms of finding the work and being autonomous, it's a lot more lonely than working in film production because you kind of move as a cohort, I feel, on a film. So if we were working on a film together, for example,
it's a bit more of a family thing, isn't it?
Exactly. There might be 20 of us in the prop department, and then one person gets a next job, and a portion, if not everyone, might go on to that next job, and you kind of move together. until people, have things in their life or they want to take time off, but you kind of move as a pack. Whereas on a commercial, that does happen, but it's less likely because the teams are smaller. So I think that's a differentiating factor. So you have to network in a different way when you're doing commercials.
You have to network like crazy,
Yeah.
from what I remember. I mean, it was you have to constantly be fishing.
And the jobs are shorter, so that's why. So, you're on a 2-week job, and then you've got
You're unemployed.
this phase on you after that 2 weeks.
So you
Well,
ensure
things
that
up in the
keeps
same
you
way.
ensure that keeps rolling by networking and reaching out to people, forming relationships within the project, and hopefully that if someone goes off to another project, you can follow them.
But
Your last job, I think, and I don't mean that in a kind of cynical way.
I mean, that's the classical phrase, isn't it?
Yeah. So people will put you forward or recommend you, and your name goes around more like that. Whereas on
Reputation,
whereas on a film, you obviously have a reputation, but it's different.
Yeah.
Yes, because of what I just.
There's no sort of agency as such where you can sign up to.
There are, yeah,
There are, okay.
there are lots. If you're
Specifically for commercial work, or
just as a freelancer, but I think there are commercials-based agents for sure for people who are working in the art department, whether or not it's generally for production designers and maybe for some set decorators. There's a company called Art Department, who represent all the way through the ranks from production design all the way through to like art department assistants.
So you can join up to this agency. Is it free to join up, or
I think you pay a small fee depending on how
where you are on the
paying
ladder.
order you are.
Right.
Yeah, but
you essentially join up, create a profile?
they do it all for you.
Okay.
So and they put you forward for jobs.
Right.
So they're not really like an agent in the way that they're negotiating rates and fighting for you, but they do put you forward for jobs, and companies will come forward and say, we need 3 art department assistants, or I do it often if I need to crew and all my general people that I work with on an ad aren't available, I would go to the art department and say, I need 3 art department assistants, a props dresser, and an assistant art director to help me on this job. Is anyone available? And then they will contact their pool of people and then recommend people. It's really great, and I think it helps people that are really trying to get in at that grassroots level, because then you don't have to network as hard.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to have experience to join in. You can go in straight from university, let's say.
Yeah, I don't know what their stipulations are for the sort of like entry level roles.
Mm-hmm.
But they exist, and I've hired people that are there. I've never actually asked them what their kind of, if there's any certification. I think you could essentially have very little film experience, maybe just I've been to film school, art school, something, and say I'm really looking to get into.
I mean, when I kind of first started, it was commercials was the kind of not the easiest way to. No one was going to give you a 6-month job on a TV show, but they would give you
a couple of days on
2 days work on a commercial, unloading a van or doing whatever.
Yeah.
Because the risk factor's lower. So that's, I mean, the first chunk of time when I started out was through that as an assistant director, was a runner or an assistant director, and then later in the art department. But that was the way to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's so quick and so high tempoed, you there's nothing you can do but learn fast. Yeah. Because there isn't time to sort of dilly dally and not get it. You have to just go, okay, right, what are we doing? And they're like, oh, we're sliding down this pole, or whatever it was, and you have to quickly come up with something to figure out how to make it safe for everybody and how to do it, and lots of that kind of high tempo problem solving.
I think it's good and bad, and my criticism of just the art department. Well, the initial thing I was going to say is that I think people who go into commercials learn bad habits,
right? Yeah.
And then when they're transitioning into film, it's like a totally different pace and a different kind of.
You don't need to rush. You don't need to.
No, it's still high tempo, I think, filmmaking, but people are a little bit more sloppy because on a commercial is a little bit like being in the military. It's just like you just got to get it done now. It's like you needed to do it 10 minutes ago. Everything. It's like because you have a short shoot window and the money's a lot more pressured, I think. But in film, I think it's a slightly different thing.
Well, because it's the planning, I think, isn't it? Essentially, there's always prep on a film where, you know, the designer's been there for 8 weeks, 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Set deck have been there for 2 months.
Yeah.
The props team have been there for a month, if not a month and a half, at which point, when you do kind of hit the ground running, everybody's been talking about the same thing for at least 20 working days.
Yeah.
At which point, it's not like getting a phone call the night before a commercial saying, "Can you be in Golders Green tomorrow at 6 a.m.? It's, what are we doing? I'm not really sure.
Rusty Hammer.
Just turn up."
I'm there.
Yeah. At which point you are prepared, in maybe not all the way, because you never really are in films either, because it will all change at the last minute, but at least you'll have run the matrix in terms of, okay, it could go this way, it could go that way, it could go this other way, so let's just prep a bit of a solution for 3 ways it could go wrong, at which point, when it does go wrong, you're kind of ready.
So I'd imagine in that high pressure environment, obviously you've got to be quite resourceful, and, you know, I guess there's been a few instances in your career where you've had, you know, kind of like, shall we say, like war stories where you've had to pull something out of the bag really quickly or overcome something with such a short amount of time. Is there one particular project that springs to mind where you've had to really kind of step
all
up?
like
And
that. I'm trying to think of an.
I've got a good one.
Oh, go on.
I was thinking
Of me?
Yeah, I was thinking about it last night. I'm not sure you were definitely there.
This reflects well, but that's a really great.
I'm going to listen to this one. I'll stay quiet.
We were talking to Andrea on another episode, and we were talking about landscapers, because you were obviously the head buyer on landscapers, which won a BAFTA for production design. There's an element in that show where they're in a daydream and they end up in the Wild West.
Yeah.
So we went to shoot this Wild West town, this place called Laredo, which is like a fan-built cowboy town in the middle of nowhere.
Amazing.
And it's not just 2 or 3 buildings. It's like
It's a whole street.
60.
The whole strip.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is.
church,
Like, you know.
there's a saloon, there's a gunsmith, there's a jail, there's everything. It's like a whole set, but it's not for filming. It's for Wild West enthusiasts.
They cosplay it.
They
like,
cosplay it every summer. And it was kind of mid-budget landscapers, so there's a little bit of money, but not a lot.
I think it was 25 mil, was it?
24
4
episodes.
episodes.
4 episodes, yeah. And we get to this, so the story goes, everyone's dressed as cowboys, obviously, because they're in this fantasy, and the hero characters have got to pull 2 dead bodies out of the bedroom in the upstairs saloon, down the stairs, out the saloon, and onto the back of a wagon, and then they try and make their escape. We got to the set, and I can't quite remember what the version of the story was, whether we'd run out of money or someone had told me to hire some mannequins and I'd forgotten. But we got all the way to this set, which was like 2 hours out of London.
Yeah.
And there was no dead bodies. And it was like second up on the call sheet.
You didn't kill someone, did you?
No, yeah, right. Second up on the call sheet. And it was like, what are we going to do? We've got nothing.
Do you remember this?
Kind of.
We haven't got anything. We can't do this. I mean, how do you make a dead body with nothing in like an hour? So we like burst onto the back of the dressing truck, and we had some chicken wire. So it was like, great, let's get some chicken wire out and a bit of wood. And we've got the bed sheets that are covered in blood. We've had them in other scenes, so we've got those to like wrap whatever we do. And it's like, yeah, but they've got to be like dead bodies.
Human.
They're action props. Like they're dragging them down the stairs.
Yeah.
What are we going to do to make it work? And we're all stood in a circle scratching our heads at some point. And then I don't know if it was, I don't want to lay claim to it being me solving the problem. Maybe it was you. I can't remember because the memory is foggy.
It was collective, yeah.
But we were like, someone needs to go to a supermarket and buy some bags of rice and kidney beans from the European food aisle.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is we'll gaffer tape those bags of food to the chicken wire so that when they pull the bodies down the stairs,
The weight of a limb.
the weight of a bag of kidney beans will hit the step and it will look like someone's head. And then we all looked around each other in a circle and went, yeah, that will probably work, right? And everyone was like, yeah, well, what other ideas have we got? And everyone was like, there's no other ideas.
The BAFTA award-winning
The BAFTA award-winning idea.
Yeah.
So then someone got in their car and immediately went to the nearest supermarket, spent like £7 on bags of rice, drove back at high speed, got them to the set. We were all like hiding in a tent so that no one found out that we'd forgotten. And built these 2 dead bodies out of chicken wire and timber and bags of rice from a supermarket, wrapped them in the sheets. Just as someone called for the dead bodies, obviously it all happened in perfect timing, at which point, just as we finished, it was time to put them on set, and we sort of proudly walked them out of this tent, and then onto set, the standbys covered them in a little bit of blood, put them on the steps, did a quick test to pull the legs down the stairs to see if they worked.
And they're perfect.
And they were perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
And it cost like £7.
Yeah.
And some chicken wire on the back of the truck that we had left over from another set.
Yeah.
And we had to take some part of the shelving down in the back of the truck that keeps everybody's tools on because we didn't have any more wood. But somehow we managed to cobble together an idea that worked.
That whole job was
perfectly.
cobbling ideas
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
And to hire a mannequin is like it's like big money, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you want the weighted ones,
Yeah.
it's a really expensive thing to do, but you can do it for £7 and some chicken wire.
If it looks
got
like
it.
you've got it, yeah. So
If
if it
you've
looks
got it.
apart, you don't just see what's behind the curtain,
But
right?
it was a real Blue Peter moment where it's like we're in big trouble here if we don't come up with like a really good idea.
Yeah.
And then you have a really good idea.
We've discussed this before, but that film was the perfect example of something it was the exact amount of money. Like, we could have obviously had double the amount of money and whatever, but it meant that everyone had to get their fingers into the weeds and get actually creative.
Totally.
I think when you get into the bigger budget films, they can get less creative. I think everyone wants to work on the big blockbusters, but there's so many people and so many decisions that are made by...
There's a little bit of a factory element sometimes to that stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Whereas on that, we didn't have massive teams. We didn't have loads of money. It was really adventurous.
Yeah.
And we just, we were doing crazy stuff on that. We needed to do, a lot of the scenes were set in the 70s and the 80s. And it was like working class London flashback scenes. So we had to do whole houses through the eras.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, how are we going to source like whole houses of props very quickly? Because we'd got a bunch of stuff, but it just wasn't enough. And me and the set decorator went up for a weekend to Blackburn and Burnley actually, I should go back a little bit.
I think I remember.
We found a guy selling a bunch of stuff that was exactly right.
Like a house
hyper
clearance
working class. Well, it wasn't even really a house clearance.
Okay.
But I messaged this guy. He had a sofa. And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm selling some other stuff actually." And it was literally...
So is this like eBay or Facebook?
eBay.
Okay.
I'm selling some
eBay's
other
your
stuff.
friend to try and,
Yeah, and on Facebook Marketplace or any auction sites or whatever, depending. But he said, "I'm selling some other stuff," and we just got a little bit of a chat going. And I was like, "There's a sense that this man's selling more stuff." And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing a whole house clearance. Actually, the house next door, the woman's died as well, so I'm clearing her house."
I remember that bit of the story.
So we were like, "Let's go." And then we got this idea, and we were like, we should just contact anyone that's doing house clearances. So
We need to find where
going
people
around
are dying.
people's houses in Blackburn.
Sorry for your loss. How much is that? Yeah.
Well, we weren't actually dealing with the families. It was people doing the house clearances.
The estate management.
Yeah. But so we went up for a weekend. I think it was on it was this bank holiday.
Oh, really?
Or maybe the bank holiday that's just gone. It was around this time.
Yeah.
And spent 3 days going around.
Wow. So you took a truck up and basically
We
came back
the
with
truck
full
followed us up, and we just essentially went shopping around, people that had passed sizes, and we were just picking things off shelves and, saying, we'll have all that, we'll have all that.
Yeah.
And we did like 10 houses or something.
And I guess a lot of it was quite unique as well, right?
I mean, very
Very unique, and
Yeah.
like not high end or anything, but things
Stuff
that
you wouldn't get in higher houses, stuff that's, 40, 50 years old.
a lot of that stuff as well is too bad to make its way into a charity shop. A lot of people, when they do those house clearances, are like, "Oh, this is old junk, so I'll just bin it."
Yeah.
Things like wood paneling or like an old headboard from a bed in like 1972, just things that you wouldn't really have any resale value. but it would be really difficult to source because it wouldn't make its way into a.
And do you still use that now in the jobs you're doing now? That sort of skill set of going onto Facebook and eBay and other
all
sites?
all the time, yeah.
You often
Antique
browsing,
places, high-end
even
stuff.
when you haven't got a job, you're just browsing sometimes just to see what's out there and just.
I'm obsessed
available.
with finding bargains of furniture, but it's become increasingly more difficult. I think since COVID, everyone fancies themselves as a
Flipper.
A flipper, vintage clothes, vintage
Yeah.
furniture, whatever. So it's difficult to find those bargains now because everyone's doing it, but they are out there.
I remember Robert at the start of that job being adamant that Robert, the set decorator, being adamant that he didn't want to see anything on camera that had ever been seen before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So which is extremely rare. I didn't quite understand what he meant at first. And I think the only thing he hired from a hire house was some net curtains, I remember. And that every single item that you see in that show was handpicked and found
We were buying
somewhere in the UK, to the point where Emily Britton, who's the store person on that job, and myself, we had trucks out all over England and Scotland and Wales. There was like 13 vehicles out on one day. So complicated that we had to go to the local petrol station and buy a map of the UK, and then bring in some corgi toys from home to start
A war room.
to understand if it was possible for any given vehicle to do more than one thing, because Jack and Robert and the team were finding this stuff that was perfect, but it just happened to be in North Wales or
Scotland or whatever.
or in Scotland, or on the tip of France.
Well, that was what I was just
I mean,
gonna
it
say.
was
We were buying stuff in
bananas.
France
Yeah.
right after Brexit.
Yeah,
Right.
So there were a bunch of sets that were in Lille in this show. So we were set in Lille. So we had to furnish it with French stuff.
Yeah,
And there was just finding houses.
Which does
were
look
for
different to UK
Of cour-
stuff.
of course it
you
does.
can't buy
Yeah.
British stuff and say it's France because it's got a flag in the corner or something. Yeah, you've got to buy stuff which, when people watch it, they go, oh yeah, I can relate to that.
Which was a nightmare because of Brexit. It meant that trade was different. We had to pay importation taxes on everything. I was on like French eBay, like trying to communicate through Google Translate with French people, just like really badly.
Bonjour.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, it all paid off because all the sets looked amazing, and people still compliment me on it to this day. People
totally.
People think it's great and looks great.
It's a humdinger.
Yeah.
What do you look for in new projects that you work on? What excites you? What challenges really get you going?
I think actually I like the buzz of a commercial, but I think on a film, I think the thing that makes me tick the most is kind of what I just described, is getting my fingers into the weeds of something where there's period stuff which is really authentic.
Yeah.
And I think if doing all the sourcing and buying and going to antiques fairs, even though it is so laborious, you end up getting a way better product at the end of it, and it feels real. It feels like an actual expression of what you're doing, rather than just going into a hire house
All shopping on the internet.
and just
essentially.
being like, I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that. There's something like the tangibility of
Hand picking.
and finding
seeing it and knowing that that's going to work is like is
Yeah.
real. I know that maybe it's difficult to it's a feeling. It's quite difficult to express that to people. But when you've done it and you're on set and you see a prop and you're like, that doesn't work, you know how it's gonna.
Okay.
That's kind of what makes me tick, is knowing that I've got the right thing and I found something that is really unique.
Did you always have that kind of skill set of being resourceful, and is there anything in your outside of film?
Well, I was going to touch on that with what you said before earlier on, but I think that the do or die nature of filmmaking, I think you either, and this isn't me trying to blow my own trumpet or anyone in here's trumpet, but I think when people do stand the test of time is because they have the intuitive nature of how to do it. And I think that is what makes your skill set, is if you can quickly digest an idea and know how to figure it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe we should get a trumpet.
Yeah, we'll add it to the list.
oh, what, for people that are bragging?
Yeah,
You could get it out and just go.
Get it out and go. Oh.
Yeah. Can you edit that bit out? Yeah.
So going back to so there'd be the post Mercy. There's that role in the Mercy as the assistant buyer,
Mhm.
and then post that job finishing, then moving up to head buyer
Straight away after that
straight
job.
away.
Yeah.
So
On Black Mirror.
yeah, so one job, essentially, kind of learning on the job, I suppose,
Yeah.
and then immediately after that going into something like Black Mirror, which is
Also low budget.
also low budget and like really there's a lot of pressure attached to that show specifically as well because it's so fast paced
Yeah.
and quite sort of slightly futuristic and
Yeah.
a bit kooky,
Yeah.
but like a massive show all over the world. That one, I mean, especially in the Eastern Bloc, they love that show.
Yeah.
It is huge. How did you enjoy only having literally a single job to figure it all out and then being in the hot seat?
I think in the beginning it was terrifying
Yeah.
because there was so much responsibility put on my shoulders, like the budgets weren't that big on that job. I think the set day budgets ranged between 40 and 80,000 per
Because it was the
episode.
third season. Was it the third
It
season?
was the first one on Netflix.
Yeah.
So the first two were the Channel 4 ones, which
Yeah.
I still think actually are the kind of very unique ones. I think when Netflix bought it, it changed the tone a little bit because they kind of did this international thing.
Yeah.
That's by the by. But I think it was low budget still.
Yeah.
People, I don't know what they're like now, the budgets for Black Mirror, because they're still making them, aren't they? But
Yeah.
I think people think that the budgets are massive because they're quite expansive ideas. But it felt like a lot of money to me, was my point, is dealing with a 50k budget for an episode and knowing that you were running out of money or that you might have gone over.
And you've got multi-episodes to look after.
Yeah. They're our episodes. And there were 6 and there was another team that came in and did 2 episodes. So I did 4 of them. But the other thing that's interesting to talk about on that is that you're working on multiple episodes at the same time, which are totally different storylines with different budgets. Yeah. So there's no crossover. So it's like essentially working on multiple jobs at the same time, which if anyone's ever done that, I don't recommend it. It's really stressful. But yeah, it was really tricky in the beginning. It took me, I think we were on that for 9 months.
Yeah.
So quite a long time.
Yeah.
I
mean, I remember I think the prop department, there was 5 of us. That was it.
Yeah.
That was all to cope with an entire season.
It was really,
of a massive show.
Part of everyone.
There was the prop master, there was me and another dresser. There was no store person. We had to do that as well, is dress all of the sets. And then there was 2 standbys and that was it.
Yeah.
And we were all
that was commercial-esque, I think, because we were all dressing as well. I remember being like, I was the buyer, and all the jobs a buyer wouldn't even step on set, really. You're just kind of...
I remember ironing bed linen for 2 days solid on that job and crying, I think. I ironed so much it made me cry. Yeah.
You mentioned like sort of managing budgets. Is that part of your job as well then?
That's a big part of the budget.
Do you have to have a financial background in order to sort of understand those budgets, or is it more a case of just understanding that you can't spend 90% of your budget on very small props that don't get seen?
Well, no one teaches you really anything. There is screen skills, which I think a lot of people are coming through more now these days, but a lot of people somehow just end up in the art department. Maybe they've studied film, maybe they haven't, and you're winging it based on your kind of swagger and your ideas, I think.
Yeah.
But there are certain jobs, like being a buyer, where you really need to understand budgets and money.
Right.
Yeah.
I think if you had come from a financial background, like you'd studied something to do with finance, I think that would help you a lot. I hadn't. And I think that was the stressful bit for me, was that I had to somehow, I wasn't bad at dealing with money, because when I'd done other roles, you still have to kind of spend and account for it and archive and keep receipts.
So that's the organizational part of it, isn't
which is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Which isn't just the creative side of it. But you learn it very quickly, I think. And I think some people struggle, and it's a really like pulling teeth. And
So is it a bit of common sense with that money and how to manage it, or is it are you told by someone where you should be focusing the spend on, or
no, well, yeah, because you will write up a budget before so going back in time a little bit, when you start the design process, what would happen for a production designer and a set decorator and everyone should really read the script and then start breaking it down into whatever your specific department is. If you're a prop master, you want to be looking at what the props are, the hero action props, because they'd probably be the responsibility would be on you for knowing what they are and them being on set, because you have to give that to your prop team and be over it. If you're a set decorator or a production designer, you need to look at how each scene, how long it is, how big it is. Then you go back to the director and ask what their vision of it is, and then you kind of establish, well, this room will probably look like this, and it'll be this size, and we're in it for a quarter of the script, so
right?
We're going to need X amount of tables, X amount of flooring and windows and cushions and cups.
I mean, it's constantly moving sand, isn't it? Because it might change a bit if you're in the studio, for example, where you know your limitations or what you need to film.
Well, it could be a build exactly, or a location.
If you're shooting on location, you might be, that location might have 60% of what you're actually needing.
Yeah.
And therefore your spend per that courtroom, for example, will be minimal, because you need to put a sign up, you need a couple of microphones and some box files, and you're good to go. At which point, if you're building that on the stage, it might be all of the chairs, all of the curtains, all of the flooring, all of the stuff, and that's, take that set off the right location choice, and that set might cost you 40k, whereas a really well chosen location might cost you $4,000, for example.
So you would break down each scene of a script, and you would plug in what you think it would be, and then you do recce's, and because people will decide whether or not they want to shoot it at a location or if you're going to build it, and then you do what Ben just described, and then you have a kind of Bible that you've built of estimated costs of what you think, and you would go to the production, you'd send it to the line producer and the producers and say, this is what we propose, our money that we need for this project, and they always come back and say, yeah, for sure, you can have half of that,
right?
And then there's a dance that you do, you go back and forth, and but obviously as productions go, budgets get bigger. So say they agreed to a £200,000 set decoration budget. As the show went on, you would be given more money, because the director's going to say, oh, I need PV behind the main character in this shot, and you say, well, that's out of our budget, it's a request.
Are these conversations over email then? They're or are they a face-to-face meeting where you're having a back and forth as to
everything? To me, should be on an email. You can talk to someone about it, but it should always be in an email, because you do not want anything to come back and bite you in the ass.
Yeah. So you got a record, a thread.
Filmmaking is money. It's artistry, but it's money.
Yeah.
Mainly. I hate to say it because it makes it sound unglamorous, but it is. People care about that more than anything. But in the art department, you're really trying to make everything look and feel as great as possible and be your expression. So you need that as much money as you can get to do the thing.
And be a good negotiator for that as well. And
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I can't imagine anything less glamorous, to be perfectly honest.
Than what? Filmmaking?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like being in the trenches, essentially, most of the time. Knee deep in mud that you can't get out of.
Even when you're on your laptop in a pine wood.
Yeah.
So depending on that pushback, let's say you get half of what you wanted, but you've still got to create that same vision. We're pushing back because you get half the money, but we still want that same vision. Is that what normally happens?
Then you have to diminish your vision. You have to then cut back what
it's compromised, I suppose, in some respects.
Okay.
Yeah. But you always go in at you should always go in, and this is what I would say to someone, as luxurious as possible.
Yeah.
And if they agree to a certain amount of money, push it more, I would say.
Yeah.
Like the job I'm on right now, they've agreed to a certain amount of money.
Right.
So, and if a producer says, oh, that's fine, I would always say, okay, can we have more? And you come up with a bunch of things, because then it gives you the leeway to kind of do those extra bits that do really make things look unique and special.
Yeah.
You know, whether that's getting pleated curtains made in the background or reupholstering a sofa, things like that, which maybe people don't understand when they're not doing it, but it really adds to a scene.
Yeah, totally.
Always.
Yeah.
What's been your most proudest project that you've worked on? One that's
I think Landscapers.
Yeah.
The one that we talked about. Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been ads that I've done that are cool as well, but I think that as far as the kind of
and what's made them cool? What's made them enjoyable? What's been the standout?
well, this is something that we haven't really talked about, but I think the people actually are often the main thing, because there've been jobs that people have patted me on the back about, but they've been really awful. I think the project itself has to look really good at the end of it, but you don't really know how it's going to be. You can do the best job that you want to do, and your team can do. And 6 months later, when it comes out, the project cannot look how you thought it would, because it gets edited and changed so much.
Yeah,
There's so many other departments that have got fingerprints on it.
Yeah. It's funny that they sort of come in cycles somehow, I think.
Yeah.
It must be some kind of astrological alignment when those great projects come, because I think for almost from the first day when we turned up on Landscapers, I could kind of tell something was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Immediately, something felt different.
Was it that giant warehouse covered in
Dead pigeons? Yeah. You had to walk under a pigeon graveyard to get into the prop store, which was the roof was leaking.
165% asbestos.
Yeah, we had to build a tent over my desk to stop the pigeons from shitting on my laptop. You could tell there was something in the air. COVID.
Yeah, well, and there was COVID, yeah. I think it's the people, though, really, is that you can do all that stuff, but if the magic isn't there with the team and everyone's not happy and you don't really feel like the thing that you're all working on is really good, then it never actually gets that extra bit out of it.
It's chemistry, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's chemistry.
Which is like...
And what was apparent there, it was just all over the place. There was the director and the cast. The gaffer who ran the lighting team was very attuned to what was going on in production design.
Yeah.
The production design was very out there in its approach to like how we would do stuff. And there wasn't that many of us. Yeah. So what there actually ended up being was like a really elite team of like Navy SEAL art department people, all kind of doing it slightly on the hoof.
And everyone bought into it, you know, everyone loved it, which helps.
It helps.
And it just does, yeah.
We touched on the art department, that agency you were talking about joining. So anyone coming out of education and looking to sort of make their first steps into the industry, is there any piece of advice you would give someone, aside from what we've discussed already? Is there a singular piece of advice?
What's your motivational quote at the end?
It's like really corny, but it's just like keep going and like bother everyone. I just think that people will ignore you if you email someone and say, I've just graduated from university, I'm really looking to get into the industry and do this, can I come and work with you? If you just email them once and get, you know, disheartened by the fact that they haven't responded, I wouldn't actually get disheartened by it, because people are stressed and often they don't have the bandwidth to respond. I think if you keep bothering someone and you can get under their nose and get in, like I got lucky with the story I told you at the beginning, but there was a lot of perseverance that I didn't talk about, and I lied about being able to drive and had to pass, but I didn't tell that story, which is actually it's basically
we'll do that on the next episode.
But I just think perseverance and keep putting your name under someone's nose, because annoying someone is free. And you know, like, yeah, we'll take this. That's what I think. I think, and you know, and then all you have to do is be in with someone and show them how great you are. That's my philosophy anyway.
It's just getting in the room, isn't it? You got to
get in the room, and when you can show someone how good you are and how much you like it, they're going to love you. That's how I feel.
Yeah, it's great.
Listen, Jan, thanks very much for taking time out of your very busy schedule, because I know it was super busy at the minute.
No
but
problem.
Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks very much.